Hello, welcome back to Behind the Filter After Dark edition. And I think we got a superstar in the studio today. I don't know.
Am I a host or a guest today?
I think you're a guest. I'm interviewing my bestie again. I feel like this last, especially week, has been a complete whirlwind for you with everything that has gone on and transpired in your story and your life. And I think the podcast is a great space for you to be able to, I don't know, share the depths of your soul.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know.
No one else I'd rather do it with.
I know. I just have to tell you, so because we'll obviously get into Ashley's story and her being on Netflix's Age of Attraction, but I had to put on my news anchor hat and I had to interview her because we featured her at the station that I work for in an Indianapolis station, and it also gets fed to the rest of the state. And it was just really interesting to call you and interview like I interview other people.
Right. I know. I was like, wait, am I allowed to say that? You're like, yes, you can talk about that. I was like, okay.
It's very interesting just to switch gears because it is a different feel. And I don't think people realize that like podcasting and commentary is completely opposite than being a news reporter or news anchor. You have to be very objective and you can't really obviously insert your opinion on things. You are telling a story of somebody, you know? So it changes a lot.
And you had your news voice. And I think that's what I was like, hello, who is this? I've heard your news voice, but not in talking to me. I think putting Johnette news anchor with my best friend was like, wait, whoa, okay, hang on, now I'm good.
I know, I don't know, it just turns on all of a sudden. I don't know how.
It's good.
Well, gosh, Ashley, I feel like the last year, this is something that you have experienced and it's all been under wraps. Mm-hmm. You haven't really been able to talk about it. And then just to see you move through all of this has been crazy, especially what's happened within the last week. And so Ashley and I thought this would be a great opportunity to start talking about her experience on Age of Attraction by talking about her story. Her story is very personal, and I think it's a story that a lot of people can resonate with in terms of where they are in their seasons of life. And we figured, before we dive into all the tea and all the gossip and all the fun, cool things about being on a reality TV show and knowing all of those things, that we get to know who you are on a personal level and just to know your story a little bit more and to really open up about it.
Now's the time, I guess.
I mean, you've had a year to prepare.
I know. So let's dive in.
Yes.
So dive in. Should I start about talking about how I got to the show, or just dive into me?
Well, what I think was funny before we start, the one thing I laughed so hard because you know how you put that TikTok together and and then you said something to the fact that your high school friends were really, Ashley, still. I just thought that was so funny.
I feel so I was on the show Age of Attraction on Netflix, and unfortunately my storyline was cut, so I, as people do, went to social media to tell my story. And it was mostly just because, I am, spoiler alert, 39, I'm single. It's a very, we've talked about difficult and lonely time in the sense of so many people have moved on to that next stage and they're married, they're moms, and I feel like I am in this phase of life that can feel a little lonely in the sense of it's not where everyone else, my age is. And so my whole TikTok is just kind of helping single women feel not so alone, also embracing our age, feeling our best, looking our best. So I went to tell the story and about my time on the show. And I talked about how dating has been difficult for me because one thing that I haven't talked about on this podcast yet is that I am a virgin waiting for marriage. And I wanted to share that because I was like, if I'm going to connect with people over my story, it's time to tell my full story. Mm-hmm. And to your point, I mean, everyone I was Ashley the Virgin for so long, and I'm proud of that, but it's also, I felt like it was my only identifier. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of stopped talking about it quite as much, just publicly. Obviously, my close circle, my friends knew. And then, as time got there with dating men, I obviously had to tell them. But I was like, you know what? I want to take this moment to be vulnerable. I went on the show to experience it as a virgin and to maybe be able to share my story. So might as well continue on having the opportunity to share my story. So
Yeah.
Ashley the Virgin title has returned.
The title has returned. Now, I want to backtrack a little bit, like back to, your high school and your college years, because I think a lot of girls that age, either obviously they're dating, they're getting pressured, maybe it wasn't completely 100% their decision of them possibly being involved sexually with somebody, and possibly their virginity was taken from them, or just it wasn't a great experience, and a lot of teens go through that. And so how were you when, if you had friends that were having those relations around you, and how did you feel in that situation, knowing that like this is something I've decided and I'm gonna not waver from that?
Right. I feel like one thing that helped me in high school is I was just very public about it. And, back in that day, we had groups like Peers Educating Peers, where it was like a conversation and a topic you could talk about, which was waiting for marriage. So when I went to a small high school, we had like 115.
You were in a small town,
yes,
right?
I grew up in Rochester, Indiana. I was in a small town. We had 115 in my graduating class. So for me, in terms of like my personal pressure, I never really got any because everyone knew. Everyone knew I was the virgin. Everyone knew I was waiting for marriage. So I didn't really have that pressure. I also didn't date much. But my friends, I think one thing that I always wanted to be clear about is that I hold no judgment for people who have a different life than me. And I always want to be there for people or just like have made different life choices. And I always wanted to be there for them and comfort them. And so there were times where like I would feel left out in conversations because I couldn't participate, but I was just always happy that my friends felt comfortable sharing with me, even though we had made like two different life choices. And that's one thing I also was like super, super careful about when I went on this show. And there was one point I had just finished an interview with the producer, and she's like, "Is there anything else you want to say?" And I said, I think I need to just really make it clear that there's no judgment for people who have made a different choice, because growing up in the church, not to divert, I grew up in a very, very religious church, and there was a lot of judgment associated with it. And I didn't want to come from that. I wanted to come from a place of love, and this is my experience, and this is my choice. And because I have made this choice, it doesn't mean that there's any like negativity on people who have made a different choice. And she's like, "Ashley, you have made that abundantly clear." But I was like, I've been in that point where I was feeling judged for different things, and I never want to be that person to do it. So I've just always tried to love people no matter their choices and no matter where their walks are in life.
I love that. When did you mentioned like you weren't really dating. Did that happen like throughout college as well, or when did you start to be like, okay, I think I feel comfortable dating? When, and then obviously having this, because I mean, then men are men. And it comes up in conversation pretty quickly, I feel like. And I know that could be something that you could possibly having some anxiety over, having that conversation.
It has definitely been a difficult conversation to have for many reasons. I didn't date a lot in high school nor in college. I think I dated one guy in high school, kind of one guy off and on in college. And in both situations, they really already knew. The guy I was dating, we were at a small Christian college. It was just kind of assumed, I guess, that, people had a certain lifestyle type. Once I got into my 20s and I started to, the apps came out. First it was Tinder, and I started dating guys there. The biggest balance has honestly been like, when do I have this conversation with them? When do I tell them? Because there's expectations now of when a woman should, in quotes, sleep with a man. There's expectations of like what happens after date 1, date 2, date 3. And I also didn't want to say it too soon, only because I think it comes with like some preconceived judgment on the type of person that I am. And so I wanted them to get a chance to get to know me, get to know my heart, get to know a little bit about my personality before I hit them with, by the way, if we stay together, we're never going to have sex until we're married.
So don't ask. Don't try anything.
So that has been really difficult. I used to, in the 20s, they're like, oh, okay. And I think in their back of their head, they're like, she's not going to stay that way. Like, you know, if we work out, I don't think they ever truly, many of them believed it.
Yeah.
Now you get into your 30s and you tell guys you're waiting for marriage, it's kind of like, okay, she's probably going to stick with it.
Yeah.
But it has been hard. It's a very hard conversation to have, especially when it's with someone like that I know that I have strong feelings for. And I used to get it out on the first date in my 20s, and now I'm like, this is too much. Now I wait, you know, till like date 2, maybe 3, where I'm like, okay, I really like this guy. I want it to work. And it's nerve-wracking because I understand and I respect the fact that it could be a deal breaker. And I know at the end of the day, if it is a deal breaker, that's just not the person for me. But it still hurts because it's something that I hold dear and that I'm proud of. And that's person saying, like, you know, not to twist their words, but like, you're not enough for me to like want to push through that. And I know that's not how it should be, but for a while when I was being like, that's how I was taking it. So I've had to really navigate how I tell men. Now I know it's probably controversial, but after like the first or second date, I'll either text or call them because I for so long would tell them in person and I felt like it was an unfair like bomb I was dropping on them. And they would say things like, oh yeah, it's fine. And then they would ghost me after the next date or, oh yeah, it's fine. And then all of a sudden the conversation would dwindle down. And that's okay. If it's not for you, it's not for you.
Right.
But I've started to like text and be like, hey, I'm going to tell you something. And I know this feels like a conversation we should have in person, and we will. But I want you to know that I'm a virgin and waiting for marriage. And I'm saying this in text because I don't want to bombard you. It's an unexpected conversation to be having.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to take some time and think about it, get your questions together, and then whatever you want to talk through, if you want to go out again, then we can talk through it. And then I'm an open book and let's talk face to face about it. But it just, and part of that was to protect them from this, like, I feel like, you know, you kind of expect in your 30s to be like, okay, I was divorced or I've had a kid.
Yeah.
Or you don't expect to hear,
Right.
I'm not having sex until marriage. So it was out of respect for them. And then it was out of, you know, selfishly preservation for me because it's a very hard conversation. And I just like having it and then seeing the look in their eyes where I'm like, this is the last time I'm going to see you again.
Yeah.
It just got a little difficult. So it's comes with a lot of nerves.
That
for
makes
sure.
sense. And I think, not that it's the same situation, but I feel like us being friends with me starting to date after my divorce again, like my scary conversation was that I can't have any more kids because of my
Right.
immune disorder.
Right.
So I had, that was my thing that like
Right.
caused me anxiety. And there was multiple times where I would be on date 2, date 3, and both of us, I'd be like, when do I drop that? Because
Yes.
it's a big deal
Yes.
for when you're dating in your 30s and you're, you know, there's probably men who still haven't like settled down, haven't gotten married. They probably still want kids. And so I can't have a kid anymore. And so I've had those situations where same thing, like I started to have that conversation in person and then it was fine. And then like the ghosting came afterwards or the conversation would completely change or the way they communicated changed or they said they were fine and then a month and a half later realized, no, they're not fine.
Right.
And then now like my heart's broken because you waited almost 2 months to tell me, you know?
Right.
So it's very interesting when you get to this age and this stage of life where just people's expectations are just different. And so you're trying to figure out and how to have these very, very important conversations that are like super important,
Right.
but like you don't want to slap them upside the head with it from the get-go, but then also you don't want to wait till date 4.
Yeah.
So you're like, when do I say this? How do I say this? And when do I break the ice? Like, it's so crazy, you know?
It is. And for me, one of my last like in-person conversations, I told him and his face, like, I think he just wanted to laugh in my face, which is fine. React however you want.
Really?
And then
Shut
the rest
up.
of the evening was just so awkward. And I just kept saying, I said to him, I was like, I know you're done now. And he's like, no, I'm not done. I'm not done. It's fine. It's fine. And I never heard from him again.
Of
but
course.
I'm just like, my whole thing is, and the reason I switched to like a text or a call is like, I want you to be honest with me. And if it's not okay, it's not okay. But
Yeah.
let's stop now before our hearts get too far involved.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's been some interesting reactions to it.
Were you ever in a point, because I know you've obviously been in a serious relationship before, were you ever in a moment where you're like, I think we're going to get married. I may move on this before I necessarily, or I I had envisioned in my head because I love this person so much. Did you battle that at all in your relationship?
I didn't battle that, but I think the one really serious, I don't have a ton of serious relationships under my belt. And I think a lot of people think that could be a red flag. For me, I believe like when you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like I'm like, I'm going to marry you. But I do think you can go on a couple dates and see if it's going to work or not, at least enough to try. And I just haven't found that a lot. I think my long-term relationship, I loved him very much, but I think in my heart of hearts, I knew. For me, it's more so like when I got to a certain age and I haven't met my husband, and now I have to tell these men at 39 I'm a virgin, like as proud as I am, it's still very like, embarrassing's not the word, it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Where I started to question like, okay, God, why? And so it wasn't necessarily like I wanted to take that next step earlier than I thought. It was questioning like, am I supposed to be doing this? Is me being a virgin preventing myself from getting married because men hear it and men don't want to continue pursuing relationships with me? And then I started to get mad at God, and I think that I was like, and this is wrong, but I was like, I did X, Y, and Z to honor you, and now I'm asking you and I'm begging you, please let me meet my husband, please let me have a family, and you're not doing it and you're not fulfilling it. But I realized that I was telling God, I did this, so I deserve this. And that's so wrong.
That's so good that you're bringing that up.
And that I was like, okay. And I also made this whole plan for my life, and my timeline is not God's timeline. And so I did go through a phase, especially in my early to mid 30s, where I was just mad at God.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't understand why why I felt called to do this. He's not making me, and you're not giving me the reward that I felt like I deserved. And I think God had to have a hard talk. I had a hard talk with him. He had a hard talk with me right back. And he's like, that's not how it works. You honor me and you do this because you love me. And then when the time is right,
it just so you can get something in return.
Exactly. So that was like a moment where I felt like, metaphorically, God smacked me on the face and he was like, get it together, sister. And I was like, okay, I feel that.
I feel like God does that a lot with a lot of situations. Like I know for me personally, I always say like, I don't know what to do when I'm asking God something to do until he literally hits me over the face with something.
Yes.
And then that's when I have that moment that I'm like, okay, that was clearly you. Because none of this would have happened if you had not stepped in or done something to show me something.
Right.
And I think that's really important. I think a lot of us within our faith, that's a lot of times how we think is, let me be obedient. Let me do X, Y, and Z and show you that like I'm capable and I'm able to do all of these things so that you can bless me. And God is like, that's not how life works.
Right.
That's not how your relationship with me is.
Right.
You do it because you love me no matter what. And no matter what outcome I give you.
So what's so funny that you just said no matter what. There was, before I heard about the show, before I applied to the show, I was just having a moment, and it was just one of those times where like I am very happy, fulfilled in my life. I'm blessed with good friends. I'm blessed with a family. I have a niece and nephew and another nephew on the way that like I'm not a mom, but I get to love those kids so fervently. And so my heart feels so full. But every now and then it just hits. And I was having this one night and it just hit, man. And at the same time, my cousin sends me this message from a church. And it was like, she's like, I listened to this message online and I felt like you needed to hear it. And it was all about how like God's not going to give up on you. He's still going to give you your promises and the heart's desire and whatever. Not whatever, but whatnot. And I remember I was painting my closet. We had just moved into this new home and I started crying. And it was at that moment God hit me, and I was like, you know what, God? Because I was at just one of those brief stages where like I was mad at him, and I was like, why are you doing this, man? I was like, I'm 38, I want to have a baby. I am on the verge, and I felt like God. I just felt like all of a sudden my heart softened, and I was like, you know what, God? No matter what, I am going to love you no matter what. I'm going to serve you no matter what. And I'm going to trust in you no matter what. And it was just one of those breaking moments for me because that anger every now and then can just build up. I'm just like, why? What are you doing to me? And then I realized I was like, you know what? No, I have faith in you no matter what. And so I had my no matter what moment. And now I keep reminding myself when I feel those moments, I was like, you know what? No matter what, God, I trust you. And then it was a couple months later, I was auditioning for a reality show or applying for a reality show. So God knew that there was something around the corner that was going to, change things for me.
So what was your thought process when this opportunity came for you, knowing that this is who you are and the potential of what you'd have to open up to?
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel about all of that when you first got approached about this?
So it was so weird. It was on my 38th birthday. And I was driving in my car, and I had my phone up on my panel, and a text popped up, and it said, "Don't hate me, but." And I was like, "Oh no, here it comes! Another blind date set up that's not gonna pan out." That was my first thought. Yes. And then within seconds, I got another text from an unknown number. I was like, "This is weird." So I opened it up, and my friend who I hadn't seen in years, she's like, "No, hey, don't hate me, but a casting director found me on Instagram. She's like, I'm married. It's for a dating show, but I gave him your name." And I was like, okay. And I opened up his text message, and it was like, "Hey, your friend gave me your name. Would you want to talk?" And I think if it was any other day but my birthday, I don't know that I would have answered, because I'm like, it's another reminder that I'm a year older or a year closer to not being able to have my kids of my own. It's a year older where I have outweighed society's expectations for me to get married. It's just that little day, that once a year reminder. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? Let me try. And so I ended up just talking to him, and after that, I just prayed. I was like, I know this is a weird prayer because this is a reality dating show, but I was like, God, if this is where you want me, then open the doors. If it's not, then close them. I'm going to trust you through this entire process. And on my first Zoom interview with the casting team, afterwards, the guy, he ends the recording part, and he's just like, I just want you to know your story is amazing. Aww. And he was like, I come from a family of faith too. And he's like, my wife and I, we're Christians and blah, blah, blah. And it was just, for me, it was like, he goes, no matter what happens. I'm like, no matter what. Okay. He was like, your story is important. And I was like, okay. And so it just seemed that God wanted it to happen. And so then I was trusting him that he had a reason for it. And I knew that if I got there, I knew part of that reason was going to be to share my story on camera. And I did. And I was scared. Imagine I'm having this conversation and dating.
Yes, but
and then there's 5 cameras around you.
That was going to be my next question.
Yes.
When you're having to divulge all of this, when you're in the experience, how many people were you talking to? How many cameras were set up? You must have felt like deer in the headlights.
So I did, in a sense, but I also will say I worked with an amazing production team. And one of the guys in particular, he's like, hey, if you're going to have if we have this conversation today, because they obviously knew. Yeah. He gave us some space. He kept the cameras back a little further.
Oh, good.
So they were the production team was so kind about it.
That's
and
great.
Really helped relax me, because it wasn't like the camera's here. It was further away where I honestly didn't even really notice it. And they gave us some privacy to have this conversation, or what felt like privacy, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it made it a lot easier on this particular date to have that particular conversation. It was still hard because I'm trying to talk to him, but then in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, there could be millions of people watching this conversation, but it was good, and it was a healing thing for me.
Yeah. Because
I was like, I've been secretive and wrongly embarrassed about it for a while, just because it was the older you get, I'm like, I could star in the 40-year-old virgin documentary, but it was good. So I was scared. Yeah. I was for sure scared, though.
I remember when you were going through the whole process for the show, and then you were still dating though, and so you'd go on some dates, and then immediately it was just a disconnect, or just didn't work. And so I kept going this, it's because you're gonna go on the show. There's no point in dating anybody now, because you're gonna leave for this experience, and it's gonna take you to another trajectory of a new season of life, and it's gonna be different no matter what, and you're gonna be like, who are you? I don't want to talk to you anymore.
It was crazy, because I felt a peace about it, but I was like, I didn't know. And it was like a 6-month-long process.
It was very long.
And so I'm like, I can't hold off my life just
Right.
in case it happens. But like to your point, when I would go, I was like, no, this isn't it. Something's not feeling right.
Yeah, and you said that multiple times on the dates that you went on. You're just like, it's like whatever. There's a lot of them. Not a lot of them. I'm not trying to say she was like serial dating or anything like that, but you'd go on maybe like 2 or 3 with one person and then try to be like, is there something? And then there's nothing. And so you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I want to get now, we're fast forwarding, like the process happens. It's 6 months. You arrive, you start to share your story with the people on camera and the producers and all of that. Within the experience, because I know obviously there were so many people that you were talking to and so many conversations happening. When was it for you? When did you feel like it was okay? Twofold question. On the man side, did you feel comfortable expressing that information to those people? And then also with the women there, because you've created such a really, it seems like a special bond with those women. Because obviously, not everybody goes on a dating reality TV show and experiences and feels the same things. So obviously you guys have a really special bond. Was that something that you also talked to them about while you were on this experience?
So it was not obviously, all of production knew because I made it clear in my application, because I also felt like, part 2 of this, if we were to go live together, there would be things that I would and would not be comfortable with doing. Right. And so I just wanted to make it clear. And so production knew, and they were I just can't get over how kind and supportive everyone was. So when I decided to tell one of the guys, I had been kind of dating in quotes, 2 of them, because it's such a weird thing to say because it's such a quick experience, 2 different guys. And I had a hiking date with one of them that you don't see, but it was just the conversation naturally evolved to it. I knew we were going to have to be making the choice of going to the promise room soon. In this particular date, we were sitting up on a rock talking, and we had some privacy, what felt like privacy, in this type of situation. And so I was like, if now's the time, if I'm going to tell him, now's the time. Because one thing I knew is I could not go into that promise room with someone without them knowing this part of my story, because that was unfair to them. Kind of like the dive bombing at a date and telling them I'm a virgin. I felt like in the promise room, if you were going to have to make this commitment to me or wanting to make it, you should already know this part of my life, because it would affect a lot of the next step. And so at that opportunity, when I told that guy, he was the first person out of all the, cast that I had told. I hadn't had a chance to really tell any of the women yet. And it kind of goes back to 2, I was still building these relationships, and you want people to get to know you and your personality and your heart before you tell them something like this, because I don't want the, preconceived judgments. Yeah. So I told him, and then he was so kind about it. He was very understanding. He was, supportive. He was even checking in on me. He's like, are you okay? I think the reality of not only us having this conversation, but the, 5 cameras surrounding us with this conversation. So I actually really appreciated that about him. I think for me, it was one of the first times I felt like someone was checking in on me during the conversation. I've had some very kind and wonderful reactions. In fact, some of I think it, has shown a lot about the men I've dated and the way they reacted to this and just their strong character. But so that's how that started to evolve. And then that for me was a really also confusing part when it comes to the show, because I felt like I so intimately connected with him through telling my story, through his reaction to it, that then this other guy who honestly was my stronger connection going into this date, I got confused because I had built this bond in my head with this person because we bonded so well over this conversation. Yeah. And so then I got back that night, And I did start to tell some of the girls, I'm like, I gotta talk about this to someone.
Yeah.
And so I had told some of my closer girlfriends, and they were just everyone was so nice and so supportive. And it was kind of like God saying, like, I told you.
Yeah.
Like, girl, get out of your head.
Yeah.
Just tell people your truth, and they're gonna love you anyways. So everyone was super nice about it. I think one of my biggest regrets, though, is that I did not get the opportunity to tell the other guy about me being a virgin, and so I felt like it kind of threw me off in terms of who I was going to choose, or who I felt like the connection was the strongest with. The other guy that I had originally, I was like, he is my stronger connection. We went to this cocktail party. We had an amazing night. We spent the majority of the night just talking, laughing. He was so many of the things I was looking for in terms of, he was just like patient and peaceful. He's like one of those people that you can stand next to and his like energy is just radiating calmness. And in that situation, man, I just really needed that. But the way this stuff works, the next morning I was put on the date with the other guy. I was able to have a conversation with him. That night I get back and my emotions are just like going crazy. Not only did I just have this super intimate conversation with him, but I did it in front of cameras. The word is out. And I'm like, then I felt like emotionally connected. And as soon as I got back, I was put on a one-on-one date with the other guy. And that, to me, I was not emotionally able to go from one to the other.
Yeah, they didn't give you a little breather.
No, but when you're in this situation, I mean, you take every opportunity you can because you don't get it done. And so, yeah, it was hard. Then I went on this date with my previous date just replaying in my head. And for this particular date, I was like, maybe I should just tell him. But then I'm like, am I betraying the other guy for just having this like emotional, intense day and this intimate, emotionally intimate date? Am I betraying him by immediately going and having the same emotionally intimate relationship or talk with the other guy? In hindsight, no, I should have just told him.
Well, and it's so funny because you say that, right? But that's like, I think as women, that's like our immediate thought process, right? But you're in this experience where he's probably doing the same thing with another woman because you guys are all dating each other.
Right.
So in your mind, you're like, I shouldn't do that because I've just divulged all of this. But then like in reality, that's not the reality of the other person.
Right. And I felt so guilty, like I was betraying. And didn't help that our one-on-one date, it was night and we were on a bridge and there was like mosquitoes dive bombing us. So it was just not an intimate moment at all.
You're like, there wasn't time.
No, the whole time we're like hitting each other to get the bugs off. And I was like, okay, so it wasn't an opportunity where I could tell him then. And then we had another date with him and we were in a coffee shop. And mind you, like 2 or 3 of the girls at this point knew. And I had like 2 days to just mull over all this, to get 24 hours to get in my head about all this, to feel like, okay, how do I handle this now? How do I have this conversation with him? Am I leading? Like, I think my mind was going too much. And I think what I didn't prepare myself for was being interested in 2 men, because I'm, rarely interested in one. And so I was thinking, okay, I'll get it, I'll clock it, I'll know. And then now all of a sudden,
so you're like, Ashley, where did this come from?
Wait, what?
How am I interested in 2 people at the same time? This never happens.
And so I didn't know how to balance feelings. And so then when I had another date, 24 hours later, I had already just run through my head. And mind you, like, we don't have our phones, so it's not like I could pick it up and call you. I couldn't pick it up and easily call my mom. I couldn't call the people that would ground me and be like, okay girl, you're fine, go have this conversation, you're overthinking it. I'm trying to process all this as well, like and with the other 2-3 people on set that or in the cast. So then when we get to the other date with the guy I hadn't told that I had, connected with at the cocktail party, we're at a coffee shop, and there's one day I don't do well on. It's a coffee shop date because I get in interview mode, and it wasn't his fault. We didn't pick the date. But right by us is another table, another date having a conversation. And I'm like, I can hear their conversation. I know they can hear mine. I was like, I can't do it right here. And I was already so scared to tell him. I was already in my head, and I wish I would have just done it. I wish I would have just bought the book, because I didn't give him the chance to react the same way the other guy did. And I think ultimately that's what confused my feelings. And looking back, it's frustrating because I do feel like my connection with him was so strong in a different way. And so then that was that day. And then next thing I know, where they're like, okay, you have to pick the person you want to go to the promise room with. And I'm like, wait, I'm not done here. I need another date with each of them.
Yeah.
I need a conversation with each of them. I need to see how guy 1 is handling the information I told him. I need to tell the information to guy 2. And I'm just like, I was like, this is a lot. And so I chose the one that I had the conversation with. And that was tough. And I thought, and so anyways, he ultimately chose someone else. And so right before the promise rooms, he ended it with me. And it was very emotional for me. And I said, okay, the two things I don't see myself doing is being interested in more than one guy and crying on camera. And man, I did both. And it wasn't necessarily the loss of him, because, we're just getting to know each other. Yeah. But for me, it was like metaphorical of like, oh my gosh, I just had feelings for these two guys. I felt again. It felt good to feel again. And I was so happy about it. But then it was like, oh, and this is what, like, I feel like one thing is I'll get close, but it's like, I'm never enough. And that is also a thing that God and I have had to have a hard talk with, because he's like, no, you are enough.
So do you feel like it was like you saw a repetitive cycle even in this experience for you?
Yes, because I felt like I was getting my hopes up, I was getting excited, and yet again, I was disappointed. And I feel like that's where it makes it hurt, is because I feel like I get to these points of when I finally like a guy, I get excited, and then for some reason or another, it doesn't work, and it can make anyone feel like they're not enough. But then I mean, God immediately checked me, and he's like, no, you are enough. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I am enough. And I was doing my final interview, and I was like, you know what? And I at first I was like, you're sad, and it's like you want to be all like, woe is me. But I was like, you know what? No. And I just remember telling him, I was like, you know what? I know I am a good catch. I know I'm going to make someone an excellent wife. I know I'm going to be in a happy marriage someday, and it's just not with him. And I was like, and I am enough. And I remember saying that and being so proud of myself, because also, like, you want women, because I tell women every day, say, you are enough, just as you are.
Right.
And I can't have this pity party on screen because I'm sad in this brief moment. Like, I have to remember who I am and who God says I am and who I know my friends say I am and who my family says I am. And it doesn't matter that I didn't work out with this one guy, because you know what? God has someone better for me. And so it was just... That's when people were like, do you regret the experience? No. It was so good for me. It was so
That's good.
pushed me to open up. And so, yeah.
What an experience. Which
it truly was.
And I feel like we're only touching, because there's a lot that we're going to be talking about. But I know, like, we just wanted to focus specifically on your personal story and your background and what led you to this experience. Now, just to fast forward, you come back home. It's months before you even hear word of anything happening. Then things start to happen, and then all of a sudden you have your viral moment.
Yes.
Which I just think it's so funny, because the show, your story is not featured, but then it ends up getting featured anyway.
Yes.
In just a very unexpected way.
Very unexpected.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So when the show aired, and I saw how it played out, and I was like, okay, I got up early that morning. I had a flight at like 6 a.m. I had it downloaded for my flight, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, wait, I'm like really not in this. So we had gotten like notifications like, you're not heavily featured. I'm like, of course I'm not. I'm not one of the couples that go to Vancouver. Yeah. That makes sense. And I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, wait, I'm like not in this at all, but like a quick 3-second, 5-second introduction.
Yeah.
And so that's hitting me. And for me, it was confusing because I'm like, okay, God, I went there for love and I didn't find it. But then I thought, okay, God, I get a chance to tell my story. It didn't get told. And then I'm like, okay, God, maybe someone will see me on the show and be like, oh, I don't know. I want to slide into her DMs. And that's my wife. And that wasn't going to happen from a 3-second interaction. Right. And so I'm like, what was the purpose?
Yeah.
Like, God, I felt like you took me to this moment. You took me to this place. I bared my soul. And now for nothing. And so I just had this urge in my heart. I was like, just go share your story. So I got onto TikTok. I was just getting ready for the premiere party. And I was just telling my story about, hey, I was on Age of Attraction. You wouldn't see me because I'm sorry I got cut. Just making light of it at this point. And I said, one part about that's being difficult dating for me is that I am a virgin waiting for marriage. And that was it. And I let the TikTok go.
It was literally this out of the whole video, it was this much.
Yes. And it was at the end.
So
I'm like, people are not going to listen to this whole thing and hear it. But it was me like tipping my toe in the water. Because I was like, you know what? I feel like God wanted me to share my story. So I'm just going to dip my toe in. And I posted it on, I think, Thursday. And Sunday morning, I'm home. I was tired from LA, the time change, and I slept in really late. And I'm having lunch with my family, and all of a sudden, my friend texted me, and she goes, "I am so happy they shared your story on TMZ." And I'm like, and my first thought was, oh, they must be talking about the people that were like cut from the show, because some of the people have been asking like, what were their stories? And I was like, okay, so it was all of us. And then she sends the screenshot over, and it's me. And the headline of TMZ is the 38-year-old virgin that gets cut from Age of Attraction. And I'm like, I think my soul left my body. I think I was like, I'm happy. I'm going to cry. I'm going to throw up. And my mom's looking at me. And I'm in the room with my mom and my sister-in-law. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I'm on TMZ. And she's like, well, is it bad? I was like, I'm on TMZ. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, read it to us. And my sister-in-law's just sitting there, like, looking like, what's happening? And so I just show it to her. And she's like, oh my. And as I'm reading this, someone else texts me. And they're like, I just read your story in Us Weekly. I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, what? What is happening? And then for some reason, I was like, I don't know why. I just pulled up my email. And it was the Daily Mail. And it's like, can we share your story? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then my story got out, and all of a sudden I went from Ashley the Virgin to the viral version. And it was something that I just did not expect. And I just started to cry because my emotions, it was like a tornado of emotions. And I was like, I had prepared myself for the show of like, backlash and judgment of coming out as a virgin. Yeah. And I was anxious about that. And then when I found out that I wasn't going to be heavily featured, and then I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm not on it at all. Okay. And the anxiety quieted. And even though I trusted God, you still get nervous. Right. You still get scared.
Absolutely.
And so then all of a sudden that anxiety came back. And I'm like, oh, of TMZ of all places, they're not going to be kind to me. And like the viewers. And I read the article, and it was so nice. Yeah. It all it did was relay my story.
It really just kind of transcribed your video.
Yes. With no judgment. Yeah, it was good. I stayed out of the comments, and I will continue to stay out of the comment section.
I did too, because I was like, if I see something, I'm going to go off, and I can't. So I decided to stay away myself.
I knew that.
I read the first couple. I read enough to comment. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm done.
Bye. Yes. I was like, there's 3 people that need to stay out of this. It is you, it is my other best friend, Kelsey, and it is my mom. Because the 3 of you will get fired up. And I was like, you know what? So I stayed out of it. But it was a really cool moment because I was like, why, God, did you put me through all? Like, I'm so thankful for the experience. I'm so thankful for the growth. And if that's all it is, then okay. Then you know what? I accept that, and thank you for like challenging me. But I was like, I just really thought this was going to lead to something more, an opportunity to share my story, an opportunity to maybe meet the person I'm supposed to be with. And God's like, I told you.
Yeah.
He was like, I had you. And I think though, and I told my mom, I was like, I feel bad doubting him for that moment. And she's like, don't. That's a part of the relationship. And she's like, how many times did David doubt God? Or Daniel, now my brain's not working. But she's like, how many times did he doubt God? And I was like, you know what, you're right. And I think it's a very healthy thing to be like, why God? And to be like, what are you doing? Why did you do this? What is the purpose? And I think it's also the reminder of like, he always shows up, man. He always delivers. It's not on our timeline. It's on his. It's not the way we want. It's the way he wants. Did I want to be on the show? Absolutely. I had told, I posted it and it got 30,000 views. 30,000 people were waiting to see me on the show. And they got a quick blurb, and if they were in the bathroom, they certainly didn't see me on the show. And so it was like, it was just like a nice way of God saying, like, I got you, and I have you.
Yeah, because only God would have orchestrated something like that.
Right.
Especially the way you presented the video. You were just doing your makeup. You were talking very conversational. It was literally the ending part of the video. You didn't take very much time for it at all. You kind of just threw it in very quickly. And so the way you did the video, like, it had to be something for God to move.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And like normally if they report on a video, it's got like 1 million views. At the time, it was only at 50,000 views.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
It is. Absolutely it is.
It's a definite
I think it was so great how like, yeah, you lost it. That's why right when you said it to me, I was like, oh my God, I hope she's okay. And then I figured you're probably losing it and you're like trying to get yourself back down. But then I ended up speaking with you later that day and you seemed like you're like, okay,
yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm good. It's fine. And I was like, are you sure?
No, yes. I think I had like some time to just process it. And then I felt like, God's little nudge of like, this is why you did this. This is why you went on this show. It was to share your story. And some comments started to float in like, thank you for sharing this vulnerable moment. Thank you for making me feel not so alone. And I was like, that is exactly why I shared my story, because it's a lonely time to be 39 and single. It's a lonely time to be waiting for marriage or celibate or even just selective. If my one friend texted me, someone DM'd me and they were like, I'm not waiting for marriage, but I'm so selective in who I do choose to sleep with, and it's been so difficult to date. And so no matter how you look at it, women are feeling like, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And that was the whole purpose. And then obviously giving God the glory, but in helping women feel like it's okay to be in the stage of life you are in. It's okay to make these decisions. It's okay to have your boundaries. It's okay to honor God in whatever manner that is. It's okay to pursue your faith. It's okay to be 39 and not a mom yet. It's okay to be 39 and single yet. It's okay to be 39 and be a mom. Like it's okay whatever aspect you're in. And I felt like that was the whole purpose. And God was like, we got there.
I know. I've read obviously from what you have posted and the amount of comments and the amount of women that are just so loving and just so supportive and also being like, yes, this is me, or, talking about similar situations. And I do think as we get older, I think society tells us that like, when you're this age, you should have X, Y, and Z. And that is not how life works.
Right.
It does not happen that way.
Right.
All of us, we've all had something happen to us and we're like, no, that did not happen. And so it just goes to show you that it is okay. Whatever stage of life you're in now, it is your story. You're the one experiencing it. You're the one who's making those decisions. And you should not have to conform to what society thinks you should be just simply the fact because of your age.
Right. Absolutely. And I think maybe people think it's silly when I say this, but I think a lot of women could be married if they wanted to.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
One thing I promised myself was that I will wait until it's love. I'm not going to marry just so I can have kids. I'm not going to marry so I can just be comfortable. I'm not going to marry for this. I'm not going to marry because my age is pressuring me. I will wait until I find someone that I am in love with, no matter what phase of life it is. And I feel like that's a nice reminder for like, we get that societal pressure of like, why aren't you married? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Don't you want to have babies? Obviously. Do you not think my biological clock is ticking in my head every day? I'm terrified that I'm not going to be able to be a mom. Like, you want to make me cry? Bring up that conversation, because it is, for me personally, I want to be a mom. And I think that society does put so much pressure on us, but the beautiful thing about life is how our stories all look so different, and how we all go. I mean, imagine us all copy pasting the same life.
I know.
We would never grow.
No,
we would never learn. We would never change. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it, is you and I have completely different stories, but we both live beautiful, happy lives.
Exactly.
And I think that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty special.
Well, I think it's just amazing how God literally was like, I'm going to put you on a big national stage anyways. You know, even though you experienced it and you thought the national stage was going to come from the show, it came from after the fact, from your own platform at that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for it to get shared in that manner. And then now, to me, it seems like you feel more comfortable in owning who you are and sharing it, because you are finding commonality with people online with it. And I think that's great.
Right. It has been so nice to just find the commonality, but also to find the acceptance. And then there's also the piece now where, like, if a guy asks me out, I'm like, you might want to Google me real quick.
Google me.
And then decide if you want to set this date up.
Oh my gosh.
That's all I have to do now.
Of, because when Kurt Signetti, you know, the IU head football coach, he said something like that, like, Google me. Because, like, you'll Google me and you'll know I am the IU head football coach and we're national champions.
Yes.
All you have to say now is just Google my name. You Google me, you will see TMZ, Us Weekly, People, The Daily Mail, MSN. You'll see me pop up everywhere, and then you'll know my story. And then come talk to me.
Yeah, if you still want to see that I'm the viral virgin, then you know what? We're going to go on that date.
There you go.
I know that you could be a potential.
Okay, so before we close, within the short span of time, how have your DMs been so far with all of this? Is it like more the women being like, yes, girl, or is it like, hi, I'm very interested in you?
So far, it has been mostly women, and it's been mostly women in my comment section, and I'm actually really happy with that, because that's what
audience. You want. You don't want to get the weirdos.
There's been a couple men I've seen in the request section of my DMs, but I'm trying right now to just, keep... I mean, my DMs are wide open. Okay, so they're interested, do it.
They're open, but they're not. But like, you go to the request, so they're not fully. Open. Right. You're like mine. I have a request for all my DMs, and I see them, but I don't see them.
Yes, but if I see yours.
But if I see yours, I'll pick yours out and I'll accept it.
No, it has been mostly women, but I'm ready for the men. Polite, nice men that want to be married.
Polite, nice men. Yes. That's awesome. Yes. I love it. I'm so glad you decided to. Well, it's kind of like God put you in the threshold to share your story on a more bigger stage. And I think this, regardless, I think it's going to help a lot of women. And I think showing women that, your faith is very important to you, and you truly carry that with who you are authentically. You didn't change for any of that. And I think you and I, we've had discussions about, when you get in these situations, reality shows, they can be superficial, or people can change after them. I mean, it's a big experience. You tend to, a lot of the people that are featured a lot more probably get more of a following, and then opportunities start to come, and obviously with that you change a little bit. But I think the one thing, like you have always said, regardless of whatever you do, is that you want to stay true to who you are, no matter what.
No matter what. That's so true. Yeah. That's so true. And I feel like that's where I was when I was even on set. I was like, it is just, I want to live authentically, and whatever happens through this, then I want it to be, I want to watch it and be proud. I want to watch it and be like, no, that was my authentic leave. Even if it left with heartbreak, that was me authentically. And one thing I did is every morning I listened to worship music, and I spent time worshiping. And
that must have been such a beautiful space to worship, to be in Whistler.
So beautiful.
It just looks so gorgeous.
And the air is so crisp and clean. And so every morning before we started filming, I would do that. And then the very first day, we were all so nervous. It was the first day we were going to start filming. And there was like a group of 6 of us and 7 of us in a room. And I was like, does anyone want to pray with me? And I didn't know these women from anyone. I expected them all to be like, oh, here's another Christian. And I was like, it's no force. It's just, I'm nervous. If you guys are nervous, we could just, quick hold hands and do a little prayer.
Be a little nervous together.
And all of them did. And we all prayed together.
That.
And then the next morning, they're like, is it Ashley prayer time? Yes.
Oh.
And then the next day, someone was like, hey, I actually have a request for prayer time today. And they were like, oh, yeah, and can you pray for me with guidance in this situation? It became this beautiful thing that we all bonded over. I love it that we just prayed together every morning before we started filming. And I think that's what helped all of us stay true to who we were, true to our stories, true to why God had us there. And I mean, it kept me in such a state of relaxation for the most part that, like, I invited God to be with me the whole time. So
I love that. That's amazing. And that just goes to show you, once you just open up a little door like that, what conversations can come from it. Exactly. And that's where you start to create like those deeper bonds with people that I don't think people would normally do.
Right.
If you didn't open that door.
So true. Mm-hmm. It's so true. And to this day, those girls remain super close with me. And
I love it.
I mean, you obviously bond with all of them because it's such a strange situation, but yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on your own podcast and me interviewing you about your story.
Thank you for interviewing. This is honestly, and I keep saying we got to wrap it up, but this has honestly been the biggest blessing in it, is that it's me getting to tell my story, and it's my best friend getting to help me tell my story. So it gets to stay authentic to me and authentic to God. And, you never know how things could be edited on a show. And so I appreciate the fact that I get to tell my story, and that one of the people I love most in the world gets to help me tell it. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on as a guest. Can I come back as a host next time?
Well, girl will have a lot to talk about, because for the next several After Dark episodes, we will be including a lot of information in regards to Age of Attraction, more about the experience, because obviously there's some things that has to stay under wraps for a minute, and then we can slowly start to unveil some of those things. And then I know you've made some really close bonds and friendships with people that'll be coming on as well, and so we'll be able to talk to them about their experience. So I think it'll be really fun and interesting. I know people are just intrigued. Right. I think the thing about reality shows is that you open the door to be relatable. Even though you didn't get that moment on the show, you're getting that moment now, and people are relating with you. And I think that's why reality shows are still, no matter what, people can say whatever they want about them and talk crap about them. But honestly, I watch reality shows, and I know a lot of them can be scripted, but at the same time, you can really connect with people, especially if it's like a dating experience, because you really start to see people and their heart. And yes, we know things are edited and all of that stuff, but I think in general, people just are, once they see someone and they see like kind of their attitude or like how they display themselves, I think regardless, they kind of become invested. Yeah. I mean, you notice just in social media, like all of a sudden, because you started talking about Age of Attraction, and then I did your story, and then I put it on my social media. Now every reel is somebody talking about Age of Attraction, or saying their piece, or their commentary, like if they're like a podcaster or something. Right. And it's like it's just a thing that I think human beings innately do. Yeah. Like, we want to be like that little fly on the wall.
It is so true. You know? What I loved about this show the most is you get a variety of different ages experiencing life at a different pace. And I think it's so beautiful. And one of the girls that's going to come on, her name is Erin, and she's single in her 50s. She's one of the funniest people you ever talk to. But I was like, I love that we get to have the same experience, but at two different phases of life, and now you can give your perspective and I can give mine, and how wonderful for people our ages to be able to relate. Because I don't know what it's like to be 50 and single, and she can share her story, and I think that's so beautiful for people to be able, and like Teresa, who's on the show still, and sharing her, I told her, I was like, I'm so proud of you for being so vulnerable and sharing your truth and sharing your story. And I'm looking at her comments, and everyone's like, I relate to this. And I'm like, people are craving for connection.
Yes, I think that's what it is. And I think that's the positive part about social media is like when these reality shows happen, people crave for that connection because for some reason they're not getting it fulfilled in their life.
Right.
And so, people turn to other people on social media, and that's just how communities and friendships happen.
Right.
And that, at least that's a plus.
Exactly.
With all of us divulging lots of information on social media. So
at least it has a positive spin.
Yes, it does. Well, I'm looking forward to being able to talk with you more just about like the entire experience and you being able to actually share a lot of more things that people have so many questions about. I even knew like when I talked to Casey this morning when I was on the show, she asked me I was like, I can't answer that. Well, can you tell me? She's like, but you weren't on the show. I'm like, I still can't answer that.
Oh, that one was funny. That did make me laugh. So, Casey, we can answer her question.
Yes, I told her eventually we'll be able to answer it. So, thanks, guys, so much for watching. And please make sure you follow Ashley. She is all over social media. Are all your handles, they're all Fashionately Me, right?
They're all Fashionately Me.
Okay. Yeah, so her handle's all Fashionately Me. Ours is Behind the Filter, and mine is my name, just Jonette Cruz. So make sure you follow that. If you go to my website on JonetteCruz.com, we have a connect button, and it has all the links to where you can connect with Ashley, and then also where you can download the podcast. So we will for sure have some more tea next time, and we'll go from there.
Hot.
It'll be piping hot. Oh, okay. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.